Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my LinkedIn profile. If you are here for the first time, we are going to have a discussion about e-commerce with FAC. And it's going to be quite interesting because I have so many questions, not just about FAC, but DHL, because there's so many discussions around online shopping, building a website, but when I go on your website, how am I actually going to get this stuff from you? Because that's a very important question, and that's why I'm excited to have Vikky join us today. She is all the way in the United States of America, and she is quite knowledgeable on all things getting your products to your customers internationally, and I'm sure you want to learn more about that. Before we get started, make sure to follow First Atlantic Commerce on LinkedIn and check out their website, firstatlanticcommerce.com, and you'll find all information there and sign up for some knowledge on building your website, because we have no choice now. All right, so let's bring in our guest today. And we're gonna start with our guest of honor, Vikky, because I feel like Chris, we've done this so many times.
I'm here all the time, yeah.
So, Vikky, can you introduce yourself? Can you tell us who you are, where you work, and what do you do?
Okay, thank you, Pauline. So my name is Vikky Wambui. I'm the Sales Development and Training Manager here at DHL Express. I've been with DHL for the last 18 years, most of those in sales. So I really work very closely with the sales team, helping them to develop businesses and grow their business, and also working very closely with the customers. So helping the small, medium-sized enterprises to grow internationally by supporting them with their shipping and logistics needs.
Great, and I have so many questions, and I'm sure folks out there will have a lot of questions for you, and we're gonna get to that just now. But first, let's hear from Chris.
Mhm.
Chris is from FAC. Can you share with everybody out there who you are, what you do, and what does FAC do?
Sure, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name's Chris Burns. I'm the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, and FAC is an e-commerce payment gateway company. So we connect to websites to be able to authorize and capture funds from online credit card transactions. So if you're similar to something like a PayPal or an authorize.net, so we're a software company. We're headquartered here in Bermuda, but we connect to all the e-commerce banks within the English-speaking Caribbean, also within Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and we are also all through Central America. So our job is really to make it as easy as possible to help you accept payments through your website.
Great, thanks for that. And when it comes to e-commerce, there's so much technical terms, there's jargon, there's so much to learn. So what we're going to try to do is introduce the folks out there, because there is a shift with the lockdown. Some of us can't even leave our country, our shores, because I'm right now in Trinidad and Tobago. But with the beauty of technology and companies like DHL, we can still get our products out there to people who are willing to buy it. And for a lot of folks, we are using Amazon a lot, for folks in the Caribbean. And from Vikky's perspective, because she has the know-how, can you share with folks who have businesses, who are transitioning, trying to figure out where do they need to start when it comes to trying to get their products to their customers? Where should they start?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Pauline, because you find that a lot of these businesses, are startups. They only have probably a Facebook page or an Instagram page. But the beauty of being online and having the social media pages is because you are now visible to everybody in the world, and which means anyone can come to your page, look at what you have in there, and if they want it, they want to know that you can get it to them. So one of the things that we really advise businesses is to state on their page, whether it's their website or it's their Instagram page or Facebook page, that they do ship internationally. And when we say internationally with DHL, it's to over 220 countries. So it means that they can get their product to any person in any of the 220 countries. So the first thing is state that you ship internationally. And then the second thing is you provide shipping options, because customer want to know that they have multiple options to choose from. So having an express option is really good, because that ensures that it gets to them faster. And what we have found is that if you do have an international option, the cart value tends to go up to 70% higher. People tend to buy more when they know it's going to get to them faster. So first tip is state on your website, on your homepage, on your Instagram page that you do ship internationally.
And I like that point you made about the increase of sales that people see with international customers. And we're going to touch on that because my backdrop is from Tobago, which is very reliant on tourism and folks coming to the islands to purchase things like tulum and little sweets and candies. And, you know, a lot of folks don't even know where to start when it comes to having these products sitting down there, and there is, especially diaspora, willing to support us, right? So we're going to get to that just now. But before we do, I want to ask Chris, you know, for folks who are, you know, looking at setting up their website, and Vikky mentioned social media, there is a Brady that told me you can now have a payment button. And you don't necessarily need a website. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and I think, you know, when we look across the Caribbean, you know, there's merchants of all sizes, right? So clients in, you know, ranging from a Digicel or Flow or Sandals, if you're talking about hospitality. And then, but there are a lot of what we call sort of micro and small, medium enterprises as well. And they have built their businesses up through social media, or even using WhatsApp as an example. And this sort of really harks back to when Vikky and I first met. So FAC was approached by DHL to you know, assist with a lot of inquiries they were getting about e-commerce, and saying, okay, we can do obviously the last mile and the delivery, but we're getting a lot of requests in terms of, well, how do I set up my website? Who do I talk to? What's involved? And that's really when our sort of, you know, three-party partnership came in with Figaro. And Figaro is a strategic partner of both of ours, when basically you can create, you know, electronic invoices with a payment button in them, but you can also create the payment button itself and have that payment button on your Instagram site or your Facebook page, or you can drop that into WhatsApp, and that payment button will be connected on the back end to one of your specific products. So in that case, you can still promote and use the channels that are effective for you, like, you know, Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, but then still be able to accept an online payment, like an e-commerce payment by somebody's credit card or a branded debit card via that payment button. And, you know, that has been something that has really taken off over the last, you know, 2 or 3 years within the region, because a lot of our clients are not of the size where they want to spend huge amounts of money on developing, you know, a big, complicated, sophisticated website. They don't necessarily need it. So if you're in the service industry, or you're, you know, potentially like a taxi driver, electrician, plumber, or you're just, you know, have a few t-shirts that you sell, something like these payment buttons through Figaro, and the payments part is powered by FAC, and then the delivery and logistics side of it is handled by DHL. So it's a great partnership between the three companies, and has really opened up a lot of markets and a lot of online business right across the Caribbean and Central America, for that matter.
So as someone who is in this space, in digital marketing space, I'm excited, but as a consumer, I'm afraid, because I'm going to have self-control. Because when you're scrolling through your Instagram account and you see a dress that you clearly have nowhere to wear it to, but you want it. So, so now I'm going to be able to just click, you know, add to cart and it comes to my door, right? And in that sense, Vikky, can we talk just a little bit, because I know we want to talk about international conversation, because that's extremely important. But can we talk about the locality, having local options within an island as well as regional? So because we have folks who may not necessarily have a space, a lot of malls unfortunately are closing, and consumers don't want to put on a mask. I know folks are like, oh, why Americans are being so touchy-feely, but we are also the same people who will drive as close to the entrance of the mall as possible because we don't want to walk. God forbid.
That sounds
we have
like
to walk.
That sounds like for me as well.
Yeah, like humans, we just, we are willing to pay for convenience.
Yeah.
So can you tell me from DHL perspective, those options, just a brief synopsis of the options for local deliveries as well as regional deliveries?
Okay, so for most of the islands within the Caribbean, we do have domestic options. So it depends on, how many consignments that someone wants to send within the country. So what we do is we have tailor-made options for customers. So if you're within Trinidad and you're a business within Trinidad and you do want to ship within Trinidad, the DHL office in Trinidad can definitely help in terms of seeing what options would be available for you to be able to ensure that your items get to people within Trinidad. Now, regionally as well, we have a really strong network because we have a dedicated network in most places. Even with the commercial flights coming to a halt, we were still able to continue ensuring that we are helping with our customer supply chain, because we do have a dedicated fleet that is able to ensure that the shipments do get from point A to point B, and we are still able to keep the transit time that we have committed to our customers. So because of that, what we have found even during this COVID season, what we have seen is a spike in the shipments and a spike in the volumes, because customers have found us to be reliable because of our dedicated network. So from a regional perspective, we're definitely quite strong in providing a good solution for our customers. And from a domestic perspective, within the countries, we can definitely provide tailor-made solutions for the businesses when they do need it.
And for those who are watching from Barbados, I know there's a huge crowd that just jumps on a plane to go to Pennywise, which is a cosmetic store that's very cost effective in the Caribbean. Some people joke and say Trinidad is the New York of the Caribbean. So now you have the option, for folks who have your businesses and have products sitting down there, hello, DHL, get on it. And you could get on it after you finish watch this live. So we're going to head over to Chris to ask about that international conversation, because you now have a lot of people who used to be reliant on the carnival season. May it rest in peace, right? Because we don't have that option anymore. Yeah. But you have a lot of designers, you have people who are very knowledgeable on a history of the Caribbean, wire bending, creating these things that are very unique to the Caribbean. And they may have a website, but don't necessarily understand where they need to start in order to take that money. So, Chris, can you tell us where do they begin? If they do have a website and they want to be able to offer their products and services to an international audience, where should they start?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, because not only, as you mentioned, that there are a lot of people that visit the region, and from a tourism perspective, and then they want something that they bought and took home. But there's also the sort of diaspora that there are a lot of people from the Caribbean living in other parts of the world, and they are craving something from home, and it's a real sort of opportunity for businesses to be able to expand. Not just domestically, but internationally as well. So there is where to start. There's a couple of different things that we always recommend that you do in parallel, really. So in terms of, if you're starting your website from scratch, you need to find a software developer, website designer, that has a good reputation, has background, has good references, because in this space there are also a lot of people that will say that they're a knowledgeable e-commerce software developer, or know how to develop websites, and if you don't choose the right person to help you with that, that can get expensive quickly, and you don't end up with what you actually want. But if you don't want to develop that website from scratch, there are lots of platforms that you can sort of buy off the shelf, that use their templates that you can simply drag and drop your content into and get up and running with the website very quickly. And as we were talking about Figaro earlier, that's a great example of that, where you can, with the Figaro Shops product, you can sign up, you can bring your own URL, you can purchase a URL from them, you can choose your theme of your website, and then you can actually drop your content into it. And then importantly, it already has a pre-integration into DHL's API for shipping, and it already has a pre-integration to FAC's gateway for payments, to accept payments to the website. And there are lots of other options within there as well. There's things like Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, 3D Cart. But what's important when you're looking at these different options is that you really have to think about the payments part of it. And do any of these sort of pre-packaged shopping carts, do they have a connection to a payment gateway that is connected to the banks locally within the Caribbean? Because if they don't, you could spend, again, a lot of money setting all that up, and then find out you have no way to have those payments from your site settle to your bank account within the Caribbean. So there's all of that to consider, but at the same time, the banks play a really important role in helping you get online as a business, because they have to approve you for what's called an e-commerce merchant account. And that the whole purpose of that merchant account is to receive the money from transactions that are done via your website. And it's a specific account, and it's a specific application that you have to go through with your bank. So within Trinidad, most of the banks there are what we call e-commerce acquirers, or e-commerce acquiring banks. So whether that's for Citizens or Republic Bank or CIBC, RBC, Scotiabank, a gateway like FAC, for example, is connected to all those banks, and we can help route your funds to whichever bank you have an e-commerce merchant account with. So we always recommend that, say, okay, we'll try and do the website design and build, and the application to the bank for the e-commerce merchant account at the same time, because you need both, and you can't go online without both of them.
Thanks for that. And for those who may not understand the technical terms, things like payment gateway, head over to firstatlanticcommerce.com/blog, and there are so many articles explaining everything. We don't have enough time to really deep dive into everything,
Yeah.
but you can head over there because it can be a little technical.
It is, yeah. I think describe, sometimes we describe ourselves as the technical plumbing. That from your website to your bank account that allows you to receive that money. But it is highly technical in the background. And when I started in this space 17 years ago, I had no idea how complicated it was, and quite frankly, didn't really pay attention to it, because I just wanted to go into a store on a website and buy whatever I was looking to buy that day. And once you dive into the background of it, it's a highly technical, highly secure, massive network, global network, and the speed of it is incredible when you think about how much physical ground that a single transaction covers, to be able to actually have that money settle into your bank account. It's it happens in milliseconds, and it's quite incredible on the back end.
Okay, so we have an expert here, so I want to take advantage of that. So Vikky, before I ask you the question, I have to share a story because it's very cultural. I went to go get my eyes checked. Yes, my eyes are more form than function. And it's my optician. I've been to him a few times. So I have to sit down for them to fill out a form. And I said, wait a minute, I've been here before. Why don't you have my data already? And she's like, oh, okay, let me check, right? And she still proceeded to ask me questions. So when I finally got to the doctor and I said, why don't you use an iPad? Why don't you give your team an iPad so they can, make my life easier so that I don't have to sit down here an extra 15 minutes? He goes, I like paper. So it's interesting because I said to him, okay, so you like paper, but I'm your customer. But I'm telling you, you're wasting my time, right? And I find that that's a very interesting thread with business owners in the Caribbean. They tend to think about themselves. They're not necessarily thinking about the customer. And in that thread, I want you to share with the audience out there, because they're about to be exposed to an international customer that is not as nice as I was, right? Because the international customer will get up and leave. And I want you to share some insight to business owners out there of what to expect when they are servicing that market.
Yeah. That's a really good point you make, Pauline. And what most customers want is they want transparency, right? They want to be able to ensure that interacting with you, it's very simple. There's no hidden costs. There's no hidden terms and conditions that they're not aware of. So it's really important to be transparent. It's important that you're open. It's important that your solutions are simple for the customer. So I'll give an example. So let's say you have a small website and you have your items in the website. When I go into that website, an international customer goes into that website, what they want to see is how much is it going to cost me? But I want to see it in my own currency. So if I'm living in the UK, for example, I want to see how much it's going to cost me in pounds. If I'm living somewhere in the European Union, I want to see how much it's going to cost me in euros, right? Because that is what I can relate to, because that's my currency. So they want to see how much it's going to cost them. Then they also want to know how fast can I get it, right? So you need to be very transparent with your transit times. How fast is it going to get to the customer? And then they also want to know, will I be able to see my consignment or my package that I bought from you from the time I buy it from you to the time it's delivered to me? So they want tracking options. They want to be able to see at any point that they check where their consignment is. And they want to know when it's going to be delivered. But they also want something else. They want the flexibility of being able to have various delivery options, right? If I want it delivered on a Tuesday and then I realize, oh my goodness, on Tuesday I'm going on vacation, do you have an option for me to hold my shipment? Do you have an option for me to maybe pick it up from a service point instead of leaving it at my door, right? So those are very important things when it comes to an international customer. And most customers anyway, make sure that you're transparent, make sure that there's visibility, make sure that the pricing is really clear and it's in currency that they're going to be able to understand. And also partner with a company that is going to represent you well. Because if you think about it, when you buy something online, the only human interaction we'll have is probably with a courier who delivers that shipment. So that courier is an extension of your business, right? So you really want to partner with a shipping company that is really going to be a good representation for you in terms of your business. So partnering with DHL will give you all that.
That tracking option, that, it's so important, especially with Amazon being such a huge, and hopefully it'll change over time, but Amazon has been a huge website or retail option for Caribbean individuals. And even when I purchased my equipment, camera equipment, and seeing the steps of the tracking, it extends your e-commerce experience, because you do have that lag time of when you purchase it online to when it gets to you, and to be able to track it, to me, makes a huge difference as a consumer. And you mentioned the currency option, and I think that is so important that I want to touch on it with Chris when it comes to FAC, and a lot of Caribbean businesses. We may have our currency equivalent of it. Where does the support go with that as a business owner? Should they look to have that conversation? Because now you are dealing with forex, which has different days and times. Like, is this the right? Am I gonna lose out on this? Like, where does that conversation start with the business owner?
Yeah, and just to add on to your point before, in terms before we get into that, about your experience with getting your eyes tested, and it also goes back into the whole sort of conversation about mindset, in terms of as a region, what we're used to doing, and what we need to be doing going forward, especially in the current environment. So absolutely, your experience with I like paper. Well, but it's also consumers are also that way as well. We're having conversations with a large insurance company about how to get their payouts faster and more effective and more digital, which they're really up for, but their client base wants checks. They want to have that physical check that they receive in the mail, and it's just there's a whole different conversation, I guess, about mindset within the region in terms of how do we progress this industry and take advantage of all the technology that exists within it. But to answer your question specifically about currencies, so our region is not necessarily set up all that well for multi-currency. So in regards to the currencies that you can have, so each bank in each country is basically set up to support local currency and US dollars. So on you can buy technology for your website, which will do sort of currency conversion and show basically what the individual is going to pay. But that will change, as you rightly say, on potentially on a daily basis, because when you go to the banks here, and let's use Trinidad for example, you could get a TT dollar account and a US dollar account. So all local transactions from sort of TT dollar cards need to go to the TT dollar account, and then any other currency card. So if somebody was coming from the UK and they had a credit card in pounds, you basically have to push that transaction through your US dollar. So you would receive the US dollar equivalent effectively. So when you go over to Europe, there's a lot more options in terms of different currencies that you can accept on your site. But as a region, we're not set up to deal particularly well with multi-currency displays on websites. So it can be a bit tricky sometimes.
So when it comes to the international shipping and sales, Vikky, you mentioned something earlier before we started the live about what customers have seen with the jump of sales when they add that international option. Can you share more on that?
Yes. So what we have seen is that when you provide different shipping options, maybe you have a standard shipping option through the post office, and you have an express shipping option, which will be 2 to 3 days, couple of days. What our experience has been with our existing customers is that with time, more customers opt to choose for the express shipping, and they also tend to buy more with express shipping. So if you think about it, if it's going to cost you let's say $20, up to £5 of shipping of items, then you're going to want to buy more so that then you can take advantage of the £5 limit to get the $20 shipping, right? So people tend to buy more when there's express shipping, and they tend to be returning customers. Because if you buy something and there's visibility, you're able to see it when it's on your en route to you, and you're able to get it on time within the time that was indicated on the website, that will be a good experience for you as the customer, and you want to buy more, right? So there's more returning customers when you have an express shipping options. The cart value tends to increase, and also happy customers talk to other customers, right? So I'll tell my friends about it, and they will tell their friends. So what we've seen is even more sales as a result of offering that express shipping option.
Let's talk about shipping actually, because the standard versus express, right? I know those options as a consumer because it comes up on your cart, right, Vikky? And it's going to be a new space for Caribbean business owners to now share that knowledge, or I should say share their product with an international audience. So can you share some insight as to what the business owner has to know logistically before giving those options to their customer? What exactly should they be planning for? You hear me? It's a delay. Did you hear me?
I'm sorry, Pauline. There's a bit of technology issue. Yes.
Yeah. I realized.
Could you please repeat your question?
Okay, no problem. So when it comes to shipping, especially you're shipping to an international customer, that's okay, we're live, it's fine. And you have to now create, it's almost like a separate business, because I spoke to Chris about this before in previous live sessions. Setting up your e-commerce is a subset of what you would usually do in person store, right? And with that planning, what advice or what tips would you give to a business owner to be able to deliver their products in a timely manner, right? Through the DHL standard versus express shipping. Did you get that?
Okay, so I heard the last part of the question. What tip would I give standard shipping versus express shipping?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. So so with standard shipping, it's your regular shipping. So it could be via. Hello? Sorry, Pauline. I can't hear you clearly.
You could go ahead. You're talking about express and standard shipping. I think we
Yeah. Technical break.
Yeah. Chris, is it your headphones?
No, I don't think so.
No, not yours, Vikky. Sorry. Because I think it might be headphones, it may not be the internet. All right, so let's go to Chris for a second. Maybe the internet. We need to reset the internet.
Yeah.
Are you hearing me, Vikky?
Okay. I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, you want to go ahead with the conversation about the express versus standard shipping?
Yes. So you wanted to know the difference between standard shipping and express shipping, right?
So what advice would you give to business owners, Caribbean business owners, who are now setting up their business to make sure that their customers are able to get the products on time based on the option they've chosen?
Okay, so again, it's being very open and transparent with the differences between the different shipping options. So with the standard option, you need to be very clear that this is a standard option, meaning this is the amount of time it will take to get your consignment. Be very clear if they're able to track the consignment or not with standard shipping, and be very clear on if there's duties and taxes, how those will be handled with standard shipping. And do the same for express shipping, right? So express shipping is going to take 2 to 3 days. This is how you can track your shipments, and this is how duties and taxes will be managed. The the advantage of express shipping is you can also offer a service called DTP, which is delivered taxes paid, duties and taxes paid. What that means is that all the end receiver will need to do is receive the package, because the duties and taxes will be covered by the shipper in case there's any, and that can be incorporated into the pricing of the item or into the shipping costs of the item. So what I would suggest is have an FAQ page where there's those frequently asked questions about shipping, that you can answer those questions and be able to really provide that transparency for the customer, because they want to have that peace of mind that if I choose standard shipping, this is what I'm going to get. If I choose express shipping, this is what I'm going to get. So having that FAQ is really important for the business.
Great, because I actually was going to ask you about the customs conversation, because we may not necessarily be familiar with the destination, like let's say Canadian taxes. So when a business owner has packaged their product and it's ready to go to the customer, will DHL give the business owner that information that will then be transferred to the customer? How does that work? Is it instant?
Yes. So the beauty of partnering with DHL is because we've been in this business for a really long time, we've been able to form really good relationships with customs authorities across the world. We've done our research, so we are able to provide guidance in terms of what duties and taxes are going to be charged by different countries. We're also able to advise on something called, for example, de minimis. So it's the point at which you start to incur duties and taxes. So if you know that, if, for example, I keep the value of my items below $100, for example, and I ship it to this country, there'll be no duties and taxes for the end customer because the de minimis is at that value. So we are able to provide this guidance for you when you're shipping, so that you're able to advise your customers. We are able to give you the different options you can provide for duties and taxes. So there's DTP that I mentioned, duties and taxes paid, which means you will incur the duties and taxes on behalf of your customer. And what you can do is incorporate that into the pricing or into the shipping. There's also something else called ADC, which is advanced duty collection. And what this does is, if you're not doing the DTP option, then you can guide your customer on how much duties and taxes will be charged. So they will receive a communication, maybe an email that tells them this will be the duties and taxes, and they can pay for that online, and then they can receive their items. So we are able to provide the knowledge on duties and taxes for different countries. We're able to provide the different options that you can provide for your customers for duties and taxes, just to make sure that it's a seamless solution for both you and for your customer.
Great. And Chris, this is why I ask you about finding the right partner to build a website that supports that. And maybe Figaro does that as well. So what advice would you give to business owners? Because a lot of the times they may say, okay, I know this cheap template I'm going to try out. I have a cousin who does this. She's a graphic artist, so she can do this website for me. Whew, heard it so many times. Can you first of all, tell them they should not do that? Why they should not do that? And then give them advice in the direction that they should go.
We see that again. This sort of goes back to a little bit about the complication of the network behind the network, right? So in terms of where it is, and so that's a great example. It is the cousin or the brother or somebody who goes, yeah, I know something about computers. I'll put this together for you. And it is just one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because you have to be, this is your shop front to the world. And this is what you want. This is the way you want to position your company. And your company will live or die based upon, how professional your site looks and how strong your technology is and who your partners are. So, I live, in Bermuda, so we import everything. When I'm looking at buying something on a website, not just because I'm in the industry. I want to know they're partnering with, with a shipping company that I have heard of and have had a good experience with. If they're talking about some entity that I've never heard before, I'm just simply not going to trust that that's going to get to me. And the fact that with DHL's API as well, you can see, when you integrate into that, you can see what your shipping and duty charges are going to be when you come in there. That's really important when you live in an island where Bermuda is has a high customs duty on everything that you bring in. So when I buy something from Amazon, as an example, I know roughly that whatever that price is, I'm going to pay another 50 to 75% on top of that to have it landed in Bermuda. And so if you're not showing that to your customers as a business, you might be at risk of chargebacks as well. So where somebody is, got their goods with it that they wanted and they paid the certain amount, but then by the time you pay for the shipping and the duty and that wasn't disclosed up front, you're paying, maybe 50 to 100% more than what you paid for the actual product. That's when you can get into issues with chargebacks. So yeah, I can't stress highly enough about, how many projects we have seen go sideways because people have used the wrong partners. And that's why, when we, pick our partners like DHL and Figaro, we know, there are, obviously DHL is very well known and Figaro is a newer name. But these are people that we had worked with for a number of years before we were comfortable with the overall partnership in terms of launching the product and service. So if people have questions about who is good, who is reputable, FAC has 20 plus years experience in the e-commerce space within the Caribbean. Come to us, come talk to us. We're not just here to provide the technology. We're here to help our clients, achieve what they want with their online businesses.
Great, and that is a good segue into my question for Vikky, because I want to ask about the buying habits, because you have the reputation of DHL, the knowledge, the information, and we want to take advantage of that. And one of the things that people tend to forget or maybe just are not knowledgeable on is access to your products through your mobile, right? What insight can you give to business owners out there, the importance of the mobile and why that has to be part of their strategy for international sales?
Yes. Yes, what we are finding is that customers are increasingly using their mobile devices for online shopping. So it's accessible, they have it all the time. So it's really important that your website or wherever it is you're using to sell your items, it's adapted for the mobile, because that is what is going to be the future. Not many people are sitting behind their computers and buying from their computer. So it's really important that your website is adapted for the mobile. It's important that you have those social media pages as well, because everybody is on Instagram on their mobile phone and Facebook on their mobile phone and not really on the computer. So those are some of the insights that we've been able to find out when it comes to how customers' buying habits are changing. And like you mentioned earlier, and Chris mentioned it as well, those payment buttons then come in very handy. If someone has Instagram on their phone and you have a payment button on your Instagram, then they can really quickly buy that item off your Instagram page and they can get it shipped to them because of the integration with DHL. So yes, very important to ensure that you have your platforms on available on a mobile device.
And I want to talk about, because the payment button is important, the mobile responsiveness is important as well as social media. But when it comes to being able to access your inventory because that connection between what the customer sees and what's available, which I'm going through right now with a very reputable furniture company. So this may be a question for both of you, maybe in terms of tools that they should use, where they should start, because you're shifting to the mindset of, okay, it's on the shelf or it's behind in the storeroom to this is out of stock, but it's still on the website available. So where do we begin? Chris, you're on mute. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's just so from a FAC perspective, that is really important, because there's nothing more frustrating thinking than you've ordered something and then to get an email a couple of days later to say it's actually out of stock. And then then as a business, you have to refund the card holder. They're out of funds for a little bit. A couple of days before that refund gets back to their card or their bank account. So a lot of the platforms, and Figaro included, have an inventory management system built into the software. So it's really important to make sure you use that, and to make sure that you're only selling what you actually have in stock. And that's even more important at the moment as well, where the supply chain has been heavily restricted because of COVID. So manufacturing has slowed down. I'll give you an example of here in Bermuda. So this is hurricane season for us. We had 2 hurricanes in a week, which causes panic buying of all the sort of hurricane supplies. And, usually the stores would be able to, anticipate that and bring in extra camp stoves and gas and flashlights and all the rest of it. But at the moment, it's really hard to do because it's hard to get hold of the goods. So it's even more important now that you're setting the right expectations for your customers, that you actually have what you're advertising. And then there's different ways you can manage that from a payments perspective as well, in terms of, if you are actually shipping a physical good, you can what we call authorize the transaction first. So it puts basically a hold for that amount of money on the person's card. And then once you confirm that you have everything and able to ship it, that at that point you can capture the funds, and then have that money settled to your account when you ship. Or if you don't have it, you can then say, okay, I'm just going to release that authorization. I'm going to reverse that, and release the funds from the person's card. So you want to create that level, that experience with your customers, and that comes down to trust. A lot of people have bought from Amazon in the region historically because it's a brand name and they know it, they trust it, and 9 times out of 10 they get what they ordered. For companies within our region to be successful with their online businesses, you have to be able to put that level of trust into your customers as well.
So Vikky, you have anything to add to that?
I would just say that is a reason why we partner with FAC and Figaro, because obviously we are the experts when it comes to shipping, but the shipping is just a part of it. So inventory management is really important. And with that e-commerce in a box solution, as we call it, with FAC and Figaro and DHL, then we're able to provide an end-to-end solution for the customer.
Okay, so my next question is one that gets every business owner a little anxious, even want to run away from e-commerce, and that is refunds. And it's something that it's important to have, as you mentioned earlier before, Vikky, about an FAQ. Where do we go from here? Where do we start? Because there may come a point in time, like for instance, we keep mentioning Amazon because they have been number one in that space. But when we order something from the States and it comes to the Caribbean, we don't even think about returning it because we just resell it, within whatever Caribbean island you're in, because it's easy to do so. But when you are looking at an international customer, which is accustomed to that, what advice do we have here? Where do we start? wants to go first?
Okay. So what, yeah, I'll go first on that one. So one of the options we do provide as part of our discussion with customers when we discuss e-commerce is to be able to provide a return option for your customers. And it's really easy to do that with DHL because what we do is help you have a return waybill. So when you ship the consignment, you can have a return waybill in the consignment, so that in case the customer wants to return it, then it makes it very easy for them to do that. But what we have found is that, especially when you're offering an express shipping option, customers tend to return less than they do when you have a standard option. So it's very infrequent that they will return an item, but there's also that peace of mind, like you said, having that in the FAQ, that if they do want to return an item, then there's an option to do that. And that's why we have the return option through the return waybill that you can include when shipping a consignment.
That's a very interesting tidbit to know about express shipping. Huh, okay. Chris, what about you?
Well, so a lot of that comes down into your terms and conditions of your business. So, not a lot of people will actively read those until there's a problem. But you need to make it very clear within there what your refund policies are. And also when, people are purchasing, to make sure that you have a button that they have to click to accept those terms and conditions before they can actually proceed with the purchase. So therefore, you've got your sort of digital contract, as it were, that the person has agreed to your terms and conditions before they actually purchase something. But refunds, but I tie refunds also into customer service and mitigating exposure to chargebacks. So basically, chargebacks are when if somebody's not happy with your service or they don't recognize the transaction on their credit card statement, they have as a cardholder, you have up to 180 days to be able to dispute that transaction, and you can go to the bank that issued that card to you and say, I didn't do this transaction, or I didn't receive what I paid for, and you fill in some paperwork, and then it triggers what's called a chargeback. So the funds are then debited from the company's account, and then it's up to that company to prove that the cardholder was the one that actually initiated the transaction, or that they did in fact get what they paid for. And DHL is a good example of how to help mitigate that as well, because signature on delivery. So make sure if you're shipping something that you're always going to get a signature as proof of delivery on that. But going around to the refunds again, what you'll see a lot and Amazon's a good example, that if there is a problem with an order, or it's been lost in transit, or delayed in shipping, they'll give you an option automatically to have your transaction refunded. And that's all about managing the customer and their expectations and trying to avoid chargebacks. So refunds are a really important way of how you can avoid chargebacks and how you can keep your customers happy. So a lot of businesses, as soon as there's an issue, they offer a refund because they don't want to lose that customer, and they don't want that transaction to potentially turn into a chargeback.
I can sense there's a huge cultural shift that is required because we are not accustomed to this.
Yeah.
And it's necessary because it's obvious that the consumer expects this. So we're gonna close off in a bit because we're heading towards that time. But I wanted to touch on a piece of data that Vikky shared, which is 58% of global consumers would choose a retailer solely because of its delivery options. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so interesting because I hear in the Caribbean a lot of times, Caribbean people don't know what they want. Caribbean people don't use websites. They don't understand carts. And I personally think, I'm just going to be politically correct, I think it was just a cop out. Now people have no choice.
Yes.
And with Vikky on this call, I think having that conversation on a global perspective, because you have the option with DHL to test it out maybe locally, test the waters, and regionally. But I want Vikky to share with the folks out there who may be like, massive question mark, insight into the consumer expectation. And I know you may have mentioned earlier, but for those who may have joined late, can you share with the folks out there who may be watching this live or on the replay, a specific tip or a couple tips that they need to know when it comes to the global consumer and the expectation?
Yes. So on about delivery options, really important to make sure that your end customer is aware of the options that are available for them. And what we do provide is a service that gives you multiple delivery options for your end customer. So we call it on-demand delivery. So it means that there's flexibility on how the item is going to be delivered. So it helps your end customer have various options to choose from. They can actually choose on their mobile phone to have the shipment delivered to a service point, meaning they'll go and pick it up when it's convenient for them. They can choose to have it delivered to a neighbor, and that's an option that they can have on their phone, to have it delivered to a neighbor. They can choose to have it held, so maybe they realize they'll be on vacation when it's time to deliver the package, so they can choose to have it held up to 30 days. So those kind of options, offering those kind of options to an international customer is really important, because they want that flexibility. No one wants their package, left on their front door and, gets rained on. And if they know I'm not going to be there at 2:00 when you want to deliver my shipment, they can change it to tomorrow or 2 weeks from now, or ask you to leave it in a locker. So in Europe, for example, you'll find that DHL has these lockers where you get a PIN number and your consignment is delivered there, and you put your PIN number into the locker and you can get your consignment at the time of your convenience. So these are free of charge services that you get as a business to be able to provide those options to your customers.
That's excellent. And Chris, any last words?
Just really what you said before, like we're in for a bit of a shock, but we don't really have much of a choice anymore, and that's completely true. I mean, we're at a point now where we have all the technology, we have the solutions, we have a climate in which is demanding online services, and we're all familiar with ordering online, and that is that's the standard that we have to get our local businesses to be able to actually make sure that we're going to be successful and encourage people to buy locally, to be able to support our individual economies rather than outsourcing all our purchasing to something like Amazon, where we have some really great goods and services domestically that we should be focusing our attention on.
Great. So if somebody wants to find you, Vikky, maybe you are hosting a webinar soon on information on the services for DHL, where can they find you or DHL in the Caribbean?
Sorry, please repeat the question, Pauline. I'm breaking up a bit.
So I'm closing off and just asking, if somebody wants to reach out to you, where should they go? I want to learn more about the options for Caribbean businesses exporting to an international market.
Yes, so they can reach out to me on my LinkedIn page, Vikky Wambui. I'm there on LinkedIn. They can reach out to me via my email address. It's vikky.wambui@dhl.com.
And I tagged her profile in the description if you're watching this on LinkedIn. And Chris, what about you? Where should they find you?
So the best place to get all the information on FAC is just firstatlanticcommerce.com. And there is a wealth of information on our website, and there's a contact us page within there as well, and that will go to the entire business development team here at FAC. And if there's any questions with regards to any part of the process, please reach out to us. We have a lot of experience that we're very happy to share.
Great, and that is it today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And head over to, as Chris said, firstatlanticcommerce.com. Our next live session with First Atlantic Commerce is with Visa. It's going to be very interesting because I have a plethora of questions. So head over to the First Atlantic Commerce LinkedIn page, and you will see the live event is scheduled, and you can follow it there. Have a good day, guys. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.